back on the record after taking our lunch break. And prior to the break, I had asked Ms. Bates to forward to me some documents that she referred to at the conclusion before our break. And she was just going through those three things off the record. Uh, the first one that she sent to us, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can't share it. Just
Oh,
one
the first
second.
response was basically the rebuttal back from 1/2020, basically stating that I had witnesses that I was going to use in the testimony, for today, and also that I had statements, evidence basically with the text messages and stuff, which,
Okay, just one second, Miss Bates. I think we're on the same page. Can you see what I'm sharing on my screen right now?
yeah.
Is that the document you're talking about?
Yep, and it says 1/15/2020.
But it doesn't name a witness. All I see in there is
It's
it says that you have a witness.
that, and I have a witness that, basically will be testifying in this investigation.
But have you ever named the witness prior to today?
Yes, I did. I named the witness on the other exhibit you got. It said 6/17 or 6/19, 2019, and her name is on there, and it says Leticia Kelly, and she was a worker for that company at the time. So her name had already been previously exposed to you guys, but then today you're saying that you never heard about my witness, and that basically that's why she couldn't testify today, because she was one of the people that were going to testify today. But you got this information back June 7th of 2019.
That's first of all not what I said. I said that I wasn't going to let your witnesses because you didn't provide a witness
You
list.
said I didn't provide witnesses, but I had already been providing you with the witnesses. So this investigation is extremely biased. As it's not a fair investigation at all. And I would like for his witnesses to be suppressed and not be able to testify today, because I had already provided you guys with this information about my witnesses, and I wanted my witnesses to be able to testify. How could you make a decision without all of my evidence?
Well, why didn't you submit a witness list?
This right here was part of that information. I didn't submit a witness list recently because I've been very, very ill. I told you I'm just getting over COVID-19 and stuff like that. And I guess at this point, I would just like to get a lawyer, because this is ridiculous.
Well, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the time frame correctly, because this statement that you said that's from your niece, I believe that's your niece, correct?
Yeah, that's my niece, and knowing the fact that she is my niece lets you guys know that, she already gave information saying that she was going to be a witness in this case. So I don't know how all of a sudden you feel like I don't have a witness when she gave this almost 2 years ago.
Right, but that's the problem, because that statement is dated June 7th, 2019. Your appeal is dated January 15th in 2020, and the
And
hearing
I
is
still
today,
and I
May
still
10th, 2021. So how are we to know that a witness statement that was provided and dated June 7th of 2019 would have been testifying here today?
Because basically when I provided you with my statement in 2020 or whatever, that basically I still had witnesses and I had evidence, that right there goes to show you that she's obviously still testifying. Basically I did mention to you guys that I had witnesses, and your whole thing was, you're not letting me have my witnesses today because you never even heard of them and you didn't know I had the witnesses to begin with. But here is the proof right here in writing that you guys knew of my witnesses, you knew who the witness was and everything, and then you didn't let her testify today. So I don't know how you could be possibly making a decision. It can only go one way. It can only be, again, discrimination from you and this lawyer, and this is ridiculous. And I'm going to get me a lawyer on this case because this is wrong.
Well, again, my decision stands because you didn't provide a witness list letting us know that this was going to be the witness that you were going to have testifying here
Well,
today.
gave you guys a statement. You already had this information stating that she's going to be a part of this case. And this right here shows, and it's been standing for the longest, and she's waiting today to testify. And again, I would just prefer for his witnesses to be suppressed. If you're going to suppress my witnesses, when you guys had some recollection that I was going to be I was going to be bringing some type of evidence today along with a witness.
Attorney Woodson, do you have any response?
Yes. So I would like to, like you said, Judge, this document is dated, the letter from Letitia Kelly, June 7th of 2019. That's still during the investigation phase. I think you said that this wasn't appealed until January of 2020. I would also like to say that the January 15th, 2020 statement from Ms. Bates mentions a witness, but it doesn't mention specifically what witness or any specific pieces of evidence. So it doesn't put me or my client on notice of what witnesses to expect or what pieces of evidence, which I believe is the purpose of the Administrative Code section DWD 218.17.
Well, I know get any witness list from you guys either until just a few days ago. This was the 6th of May when I received this invoice or whatever from the judge stating that it was going to be Kristen and Tara and someone else. But prior to that, I had no knowledge of any witnesses that you guys had either. So basically, we're getting knowledgeable about the witnesses around the same time. So I don't understand why you feel the company can break all these laws and have these witnesses to testify against me, but I can't have my witnesses to testify the truth of what's going on in this whole situation. And again, it's another, biased investigation. How dare you guys do this?
And I'm Campbell, or Miss Bates, excuse me, Miss Bates. Did you not get the email, or excuse me, I think it was in the mail from Attorney Woodson, April 30th, 2020 is the date of the letter that I received, where he listed the names of his witnesses and the documents he was going to use?
No, I received nothing in the mail from any attorney at all.
What is your current mailing address, first of all? I don't think I ever asked you that.
1823 Badger Street, apartment 6, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
When did you move? Because the last address I have for you is 1607 Amy Street, apartment 1 in Green Bay.
I moved months ago.
Did you ever tell us that you moved?
I put in a change in address, so everything that should have been going over there to that address for me should have been coming here.
But did you ever notify our agency that you had moved to update our records?
No, I didn't. I didn't notify the agency because I notified it through the change in address system.
Okay, so that could be the reason why you didn't get Attorney Woodson's letter, because like I said, it looked like it was mailed on April 30th. And when you put in a change of address, it takes sometimes a while for the post office to resend it or to get it to where your current address is. So you might actually be receiving it, at some point.
Even so, I didn't get the memo. So, you guys didn't get the memo, so you can't use your witnesses. I didn't get the memo either. So I'm asking that his witnesses be suppressed.
Well, I would just like to say that, reading through DWD 218.17, that in the Administrative Code, it says, by no later than the 10th day prior to the day of the hearing, the parties shall file with the division and serve upon all other parties a written list of names and witnesses and copies of the exhibits that the parties intend to use at the hearing. For the purpose of the section, service is complete on mailing rather than on receipt. The administrative law judge may exclude witnesses and exhibits not identified in a timely fashion pursuant to this section. So we, like the judge said, we did mail our documents more than.
But it. I still didn't receive it. And you guys know that I didn't receive it now. And now you know why I didn't receive it. You don't even have the correct mailing address for me. So
Because you didn't give us the correct mailing address, though. That's why I was asking you that question, is if you had given us the correct mailing address, we would have sent it to you at that address instead of your old address.
But my thing is this, how's you guys still trying to move forward with this, knowing that I didn't get prior knowledge of your witnesses either?
Because it's your fault you didn't get prior knowledge.
It's not my fault. It's the fault of the mail carrier that didn't get me the letter out here yet.
Well, but like I said, if you had contacted our agency when you moved and said that you moved and here's my new address, we would have sent everything to you at that new address instead of the old address, which would have meant that you got it in a timely fashion. And
No.
like you also said on the email that I sent you on the 6th, you did get some notice. Granted, it wasn't 10 days before, but it was still more than the day of the hearing.
It was just a couple of days before. And basically, you know, I didn't have time to prepare to cross-examine those people and ask them questions and stuff like that, because I didn't even know until just a few days ago that they were going to be testifying against me. So again, I would like to suppress his witnesses.
Okay, I'm not going to suppress his witnesses. I'm going to allow his witnesses to testify, and I've already made a decision about your witnesses. I'm not going to allow your witnesses testify. Is there any additional evidence you want to present about your case before we move on to the respondent's witnesses? Anything else, Ms. Bates?
Hold on.
Okay. And I'll note that I did bring in the respondent's witness already. I'm assuming who that person is that's showing up on the screen.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. So then the complainant is done with her testimony and her evidence. And again, all of that was recorded, so that is on the record. And then the respondent is going to present its witness, Attorney Woodson. Who is this?
Our first witness would be Tara St. Jean, but I would like to move to dismiss based upon the record thus far.
I don't dismiss after the close of a complainant's case. So I always just tell the respondent's witnesses, if you don't think that a complainant has put on sufficient evidence, then, you know, that can affect who and what you decide to have as a witness. But at this point, I'm not dismissing Ms. Bates's complaint. And so we'll move ahead with your witness, who you said was Tara St. Jean. And Ms. St. Jean, if you could raise your right hand, do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. And could you just state your name and spell it for us for the record, please?
Tara, T-A-R-A, St. Jean, S-T.Jean.
All right, Attorney Woodson, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay, thank you, Judge. So Tara, in total, how long have you been working in residential care?
10 plus years.
Okay. And between November of 2018 and January of 2019, what was your position with the Artisan facility in De Pere?
I was the community director.
Hold on 1 second. I just tried to turn off one screen and lost both of them. All right, we're back. So while you're with the De Pere facility, about how many residents did the facility have?
I would say around 40.
Okay. And about how many staff members in total would you say were at the De Pere facility during that time frame?
I would say at the max 20.
Okay. And during a typical shift, how many staff members would work?
Typically it would be 2.
Okay. And I told Ms. Bates this. I'm very likely to ask bad questions. If I ask a bad question, please let me know. I'll rephrase it, or I'll try to catch it preemptively. But hopefully not too many. So as the community director, what shifts or what times did you normally work?
I would work during the day. I would say 8 to 4,
Okay. And what days of the week would you normally work?
Monday through Friday.
Okay. Were you ever in the facility outside of those hours?
If there was an emergency at the building,
Okay, so you just normally wouldn't be there outside of Monday through Friday, 8 to 4-ish.
no.
Okay. So what were your general job duties as community director?
Oversee the daily things for the community, staffing, helping as needed,
Okay, were you involved with,
hiring. I'm trying to think of all the things you do as a director.
I'm sure there are a lot. Okay, so I think I heard you say hiring at the end there. So were you in charge of hiring employees for the facility?
Yes, I did the hiring, interviewing, onboarding.
Okay. How did you conduct the hiring process? What was your, as a general matter from start to finish, what was the process of hiring for a position?
We would receive an application, review the application, and then interview.
Okay. And after the interview, you would decide whether you wanted to hire a candidate.
Correct.
Okay. As a general matter, when you were looking for new employees, when you're hiring for a position, what qualities, what characteristics were you looking for in them?
That they're kind, caring, honest, reliable, gonna come to work on time, and enjoy what they do.
So why would you look for an honest employee?
Well, we would work with very vulnerable elderly people that I were held accountable for their care.
Okay. So apart from your position within the facility as community director, what other positions were there within the facility?
Yes, there were me, a nurse, maintenance, lead resident assistants, and a cook.
Okay. So you mentioned lead resident assistant. Are you generally familiar with the job responsibilities of that position?
Can you repeat, please?
Sorry. For the lead resident position that you just mentioned, are you generally familiar with the job responsibilities of that position?
Yes.
So I guess let's move to Judge, can we pull up Exhibit R7?
It should be showing on the screen now.
I see it.
Can you see that, Miss St. Jean?
Yes.
And could you take, just a minute to quickly read through it, and you can tell, I'm sure, the judge when you need to scroll down or go on to the next page.
Okay.
I scroll down to the next page, or are you still reading the first page?
I'm good now. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I think that's
All
the
right.
last page of that
Yep,
exhibit.
that's the end. So do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the job description for the lead resident assistant.
Okay. Was this the job description that was applicable for the lead resident assistant position between November of 2018 and January of 2019?
Yes.
Does this document accurately reflect the duties expected of a lead resident assistant?
Yes.
Was there one lead resident assistant or were there several lead resident assistants?
There were several.
Do you remember how many lead resident assistants there would be in total at the Artisan facility?
Probably 4 to 5.
Okay. So after reviewing the document, does the document say anywhere that lead resident assistants only have supervisory responsibilities?
No.
Were white team leads, and I'm sorry if I say team lead, I'm also going to be referring to lead resident assistants. So if I go between them, that's what I'm referring to. So did Artisan allow white lead resident assistants to only supervise employees while working?
No.
They weren't given a different job description?
No.
And were non-pregnant leads allowed to only supervise employees or given a job description that was different?
No.
Did any lead resident assistant, or was any lead resident assistant allowed to only supervise employees?
Can you repeat, please?
Sorry. Did Artisan allow any lead resident assistant to only supervise employees while working?
No.
Okay. Does this document say that lead resident assistants are required to perform personal care services to residents?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I think we might have to scroll up to the first page, please, Judge. And in looking through these job duties, and you might have to go on to the next page, does it say anywhere that leads are required to perform personal care services?
No. No.
Can I actually scroll back up to the first page, Judge? So I'm going to read bullet point 8, which is down there at the bottom, which says that one of the job duties is to actively participate in providing programmatic and personal care services to residents through
yes.
for staff skills. So it does say that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And this was the same, white or Caucasian leads were required to perform these personal care services,
Yes.
and non-pregnant leads were required to perform the personal care services.
Yes.
So with lead resident assistants, were they only providing personal care services, or were there other duties that they were required to do?
They would make sure everything's done on their shift.
Okay, so they did have other responsibilities.
Yes.
Okay. Has there ever been any lead or team lead, or any employee for that matter, that was only required to perform personal care services to residents?
No.
Okay. Does the lead resident assistant job description list passing medications anywhere as a job duty?
I did not see that anywhere.
Okay. So with medication, strike that. During your employment at the De Pere facility, was there ever any standalone medication passing or med tech position that only passed medication during their shift?
No.
Do employees need to have any kind of certificate or certification to be able to pass medications?
Yes, they have to have their medical or medication certification.
Okay, and who is that issued by?
The state of Wisconsin.
Okay, that's not something that's issued by Artisan?
No.
Okay. So what, in addition to the certificate, did Artisan require to pass medications?
They would go through the course and then they would do training on the floor.
Okay, and could you quickly describe the training that employees would have to do?
The first day they would watch a certified med passer, and then 2 to possibly 3 days that they would pass the medications with a certified med passer.
Okay, and are employees paid to come in and do this training?
Yes.
Okay. If an employee wanted to pass medication and they requested to do so to you, would you or someone else schedule them to be trained?
Yes.
Okay. And then if an employee is trained to pass medication and is checked off by Artisan, would they always be scheduled to pass medication during their shift?
No, not necessarily every time.
Okay. Were there times when they would not be scheduled to pass medications?
Yes.
And what is the situation when they would not be scheduled to pass medications?
If there were other med passers on,
Okay. And if someone was scheduled to pass medication, would that be their only duty for the shift? Is that all they would be doing?
no.
Would they need to do the other duties that we just looked over here in this job description, exhibit R7?
Yes.
Okay. About how long did it take to pass medications?
On each shift, I would say about 2 hours.
Okay, so out of a presumably 8-hour shift, it only took 2 hours. So there was
Yes.
6 hours remaining for the employee to do the remainder of their duties.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you. And if you're having any trouble hearing me, I'm sure that my voice is going to start to go, so I'll just start yelling louder. So I believe you already said you were in charge of hiring employees at the Pier facility.
Yes.
Were you involved in hiring Annie Bates in November of 2018?
Yes, I was.
Was anyone else involved in the process?
Ashley Martell would have been.
Okay, and what was her position?
She was the nurse.
Okay. And then, Judge, could we please pull up Exhibit R1? Okay. Would you take a minute to look through this document?
And again, let me know when you need me to scroll down.
Okay, you can scroll. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
That's the last page.
Okay.
Okay, could we scroll back up to the first page, please, Judge? Thank you. Okay, have you seen this document before today?
Yes.
And what is it?
Is Annie Bates' application.
Okay. There's some handwriting on the application. We can see it up in the right-hand corner here. If the judge scrolls down, there's some a little bit lower on the bottom. Is that your handwriting?
Yes.
Was that yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Would you have received this document in the normal course of your job while employed with Artisan?
Yes.
And would you have put this document in Annie Bates' personnel file?
Yes.
And then Kind of middle-ish of the page here, it says that Annie Bates was applying for a med tech position. Did that position exist when she applied?
No,
Was there ever a med tech position at Artisan?
no.
Okay. Could you go to the next page, please, Judge? Thank you. So on this page, it says to list work experience for the past 3 jobs. Why did Artisan ask for this information?
To get their history of employment.
Okay. Did you personally check the employment history of employees?
No,
Did someone else check the employment history?
yes,
Who did?
our corporate office.
Okay. And what 3 employers did Ms. Bates list on this application?
Well, AACO Nursing, Atrium Post Care, and Manitowoc Home Health.
Okay. From your review of the document earlier, were there any other previous employers listed anywhere on the application?
No,
Okay. So after she submitted this application, what would be the next step in the process for her?
I would set up an interview.
Okay. And did you interview Ms. Bates?
Yes,
Okay. And that was in person?
yes.
Okay. Was anyone else present for the interview?
Ashley Martell.
Okay. Do you remember what topics you covered in that interview? Or what topics you
would
would cover in interviews generally?
Sure. We would talk about their employment history, why they would want to work at Artisan. I'd have them tell me a little bit about themselves and why they would want to work at Artisan.
And you asked this for every employee?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember Ms. Bates telling you during this interview that she worked for an Arcadia staffing agency?
No,
Did you end up recommending to hire Ms. Bates?
yes, I did.
And for what position did you recommend to hire her?
The lead resident assistant.
Um, was your decision to hire her final, or did anyone else have to sign off?
It would be me, probably me and Ashley talking about it.
Okay, did you need to get approval from anyone else to hire her?
Oh, yes, we would have, prior to hiring, we would have to do a background check and reference checks.
And who would do that?
Our corporate office.
So is it correct to say that corporate needed to sign off before she could actually be hired?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you send Ms. Bates' application materials to corporate to have them conduct the reference and background checks?
Yes.
Okay. So after Ms. Bates was actually hired, I guess to take that back, was Ms. Bates hired after the reference and background checks?
Yes.
And you had said before you conducted onboarding, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what did Ms. Bates' onboarding consist of, or what did you generally go over with employees during onboarding?
It would be your typical new hire paperwork, I-9, W-4s, the job descriptions, just doing general employee paperwork.
Okay. And you did Ms. Bates' onboarding the same way that you did it for every other employee?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that part of the onboarding was going over job descriptions, correct?
Yes.
Judge, could you please pull up Exhibit R7? Okay. So we already went over this document, but you've seen it before, correct?
Correct.
And this is the lead resident assistant job description.
Yes.
Um, were all employees required to go over their job descriptions prior to starting onboarding?
Yes.
Do you remember going over a job description with Ms. Bates during her onboarding?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
Okay. Judge, could you go to the 4th page of this document? It's going to be the signature page. Does that appear to be Ms. Bates' signature on this last page?
Yes.
And would you have put this document in Ms. Bates' personnel file?
Yes.
And is that what you do for all employees?
Yes.
Okay. When you hired Ms. Bates or when she started working, were you aware that she was pregnant?
No.
Did she ever tell you that she was pregnant?
No.
Did you ever become aware of any restrictions that she had because she was pregnant?
No.
So she didn't bring in any doctor's notes, anything like that?
No.
As a general matter, if an employee at the Artisan facility did have restrictions, would you have been aware?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any additional duties required of pregnant employees generally as opposed to non-pregnant employees?
No.
And if a pregnant employee did not submit any restrictions, did they have the same job duties as a non-pregnant employee in the same position?
Yes, they would have the same job responsibilities.
Okay. Did Ms. Bates ever ask you about being able to pass medication at the facility?
Yes, she did.
Okay. What did you tell her when she asked?
That she would have to go through the medication course.
Okay. Did you ever tell her that she would be paid for this training?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any recollection of Ms. Bates' employment performance generally?
Slightly.
I mean, was she, as a general matter, a good employee, okay employee, bad employee?
Okay.
Okay. Did she ever make any kind of complaints to you?
No.
Um, sorry about that. Did anyone ever reach out and contact Artisan about Ms. Bates?
Can you?
Yeah, sorry about that. Did any prior employers ever reach out to Artisan about Ms. Bates?
Yes, Arcadia.
And Arcadia is a staffing agency, correct?
It is, yes.
Did Arcadia supply Artisan with temporary staffing?
They did.
Okay. About how often would you say that they supplied staffing?
It was really just on an as needed basis.
Okay. Was that daily, a couple times a week, once a month?
It could be a couple times a week, a few times a month. Just depends
Okay.
on what the schedule looked like.
Okay.